Hello, everyone. I'm Ian McGavin, the Marketing Project Manager with BMove Media. I'd like to welcome you to this session. Please remember that the session is being recorded and will be available to watch on demand following the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, please add them to the Q&A section to the right of your screen. Please note that your questions are sent privately. With that, I'd like to welcome Mark Rabin from Portable Electric, who will be speaking on how battery energy storage systems help industries save time, money, and lives. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Ian. Hello, everybody. One sec. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Get that going, and then I'm going to do this. Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody, and pleasure to be here. I'm Mark Rabin, and I'm the founder and CVO at Portable Electric, and we are an energy technology manufacturing company based here in Vancouver, British Columbia, and we export all around the world our line of clean energy, mobile, and portable power systems. And I'm here to talk to you about how mobile battery and energy storage systems help industries save time, money, and lives. We've got countless use cases, thousands of deployments, equipment in 14 countries. So we've pulled a few examples here and happy to answer any questions at the end and have a discussion. All right. So a little bit about our company. As I mentioned, we are a Vancouver-based company here, headquartered in Vancouver, British Columbia. Our first products hit the market in 2016, where we began to get our prototypes out into the market and essentially started a rental business to get feedback on our equipment. Our first sales in 2018 started in the film and entertainment industry with film equipment rental companies. And that's where our beachhead market, where we really found a market pull. We also started to innovate in the e-charger and mobile EV charging industry in 2021 as a lot more EVs and electric equipment started to come on the market. As I mentioned, we are in 14 countries, so it's a big footprint for us, and we have over 850 units in the field. So there's certainly a lot of data points here that we can share with you, and happy to discuss things that I didn't address at the end of the presentation. A little bit about our customers and partners. We play in a number of different markets, but it's our same platform, our core technology. We are leaders in the e-charging and mobile EV charging industry. You can see big names like Tech Resource unit in the Kootenays, and everything from Netflix to PG&E. Our beachhead market has traditionally been film and entertainment. We work with all the major studios and actually pioneered clean energy solutions in the film and entertainment industry. So this has really been a captive market for clean technologies, as the film industry really wants to be a leader and is a leader in sustainable production. We are seeing industries like construction, who are major users of temporary and mobile power. They are starting to really make big moves into the electrification industry, and I will speak a little bit about them as well. But you can see major customers here like JLG and Volvo, Goodyear, Toyota Shusho. And also, we've been working with governments and municipalities for many years. For example, City of Vancouver, we've got 6 of our 5K with solar systems in the emergency response pods in the event of an earthquake. So a lot of good examples there as well with municipalities. And of course, we've got a lot of other markets that we do play in. However, they're not our biggest markets, but there's definitely market opportunities for electrified power equipment everywhere you see a traditional gas or diesel generator. All right, let's get started here. So here's our line of products today, commercially available. We have our Voltstack 5K, which has been our flagship product. This is the one that ushered in electrification in film and entertainment. We have our 30K system, which is a large mobile system. This has 80 kilowatt hours of energy storage today. I should mention the 5 kilowatt system has 5.6 kilowatt of energy storage as well. And you can see we've got our mobile EV charger. All of these units are fully solar capable. They can be powered from a number of different renewable sources, as well as can be charged from generators, grid power, even pedal power if you wanted to. But that's part of the design of these systems, is that they're very versatile, as we don't know where they're going to be used or what applications they're going to be used in. So they have to be designed to be extremely robust, to be used in a number of different areas, to be certified safe, and work 99.9% of the time. Okay, so before we get into specific use cases and some photos here after, what I wanted to show is the actual power of hybridization. And like I mentioned, all of our units can be charged from solar and other sources. However, when we get to real off-grid scenarios where power is required on demand 24 hours a day, we're starting to see that there's a lot of advantages to hybridizing with existing diesel generators. And that's something that we're going to see more and more of as the industry starts to grow and evolve. Much like the Prius and other hybrid cars ushered in the electrification of automotive industry, we're seeing similar things happening in the electrified power system or industry. And in this one here, this is kilowatt hours per day on the left side, and on the right side, this is the net cumulative in pounds of CO2. This was done for an American audience, but you can see that over a 3-month period, we avoided 9,000 pounds of CO2, or equivalent to 10,000 miles driven, and saved fuel of $8,750. So this was essentially hybridized with the unit, and we were able to power the entire production off of our unit. However, it would be charged with the generator when it needed. So the generator was used optimally to charge the unit until full, and then it was turned off, and then we were able to power the production for however many hours or day that it was needed. And over a 3-month period here, you can see that there's a significant cumulative savings of the unit. And over the course of the 3-month period, it used from a few kilowatt hours per day all the way up to, looks like about 35 kilowatt hours per day. So not the heaviest use case, but most of the time when people are running generators, they're really running them at 20% or 30% capacity. So there's a big opportunity here for energy storage systems to offset the always on diesel generator functionality. Another hybridization case study, again here, this was done over a 1-week period, but it was a much higher use case for that 8-day period. We tied this into a 100 kilowatt diesel generator. This is our Voltstack 30K. And this was the daily energy used over the course of the day. So this one here had a much higher footprint, where we avoided 5,400 pounds of CO2 per week and saved about $4,525 per week. And some of the additional benefits are obviously silent power when needed, minimal on-site maintenance and management, reducing the fuel services, and just generally making the environment, a work environment, a safer place to be. So when we look out at there's so many use cases here that we've done. As I mentioned, we've done thousands of deployments, and our customers with the 850 plus units have also done thousands of days of deployment in a number of different scenarios that we can't even imagine. Our customers actually are innovators in their own right. Here you can see that the obvious one is a disaster relief use case. And we've provided backup power for communities affected by a wildfire down in California, where we powered critical medical appliances for medically vulnerable folks when the power was shut off. So essentially, the units here were acting as a UPS. So they were plugged into the wall, and then when the power turned off, these were already ready to go and to power critical medical appliances. We also powered institutions like food banks and a number of other different applications here. But the main thing here really is that we can charge from the grid, we can charge from solar, and we can provide enough power for the duration of the power outage. Here, this is in Northern California, this image here. We also have use cases where we were down in North Carolina for Hurricane Florence in the aftermath, and this is 2018, I believe, where we showed up to communities that were actually sitting in the dark for a number of weeks. These are some of the hardest hit communities. And we showed up with our equipment, fully solar capable. Here you can see we're charging with solar. You can see as well, we have units inside of the home that's been stripped down to the studs, where we're powering fans and other equipment and power tools. This was actually a partnership with Stanley Infrastructure, Stanley Black & Decker. But you can see that the power of solar should not be discounted as well when we look out at getting electrified products into critical areas where power is needed. Good applications as well here in maintenance use cases and working with hydro utility and cities. This is actually a real example here at Seymour and Robson in Vancouver, where there was a power shut off for the intersection and they needed to do upgrades. And so traditionally they would use a Honda 7000 to do these repairs. And we were able to power the entire intersection for the duration of the repair and could have powered it for a lot longer, especially if we had paired it with solar. But here you can see, obviously it's a tight intersection, so there was no solar and it was raining that day. But really amazing use case here for the power of a small energy storage system to be able to keep the traffic flowing in a safe manner, reducing the generator runtime to 0, as well as the emissions to 0, as well as this is a great public facing deployment that we did here. A very exciting use case. And the beautiful thing about this is it can be replicated in any jurisdiction, in any municipality across North America and Europe. So here's a further construction use case. This is actually a real use case here that we did in Vancouver. We had a 20K at the time. This was a first generation, hybridized with a 50 kilowatt diesel generator. And we actually proved that reduction of generator runtime by 93%. So we took the generator running from 168 hours to 10 hours per week, which was the 10 hours was mainly just charging the battery system, and reduction of 303 kilograms of CO2 equivalent for the 2 weeks. And really is reducing on-site noise, reducing toxic particulates, NOx and SOx, and just generally making it a safer work environment, as well as over the course of the night. A lot of times generators are running on construction sites, but they're powering small perimeter lighting or security cameras where it really doesn't need to be running. So these are great examples of where these are going to be used, where they're used today, but also where they will be used in many construction sites across North America and Europe, which is already starting to happen. This system can also be paired with solar for a microgrid type application where, we envision, for example, the worksite trailer to be fully lined with solar on the top, and solar wherever it can be put, and then be charging the unit. So we will start to see a lot more hybridization on construction sites as the technology starts to continue to evolve and be adopted by industries like construction and equipment rental. A little nod to our work in film. Film has been a wonderful market for testing new technologies. They love nice new things and also are very community and community facing and community engaging. So we do see, for example, here in Vancouver and other major cities, we see film productions all the time in the streets, and you see the big white generators or small Honda generators. And so we've been working since 2017 in film, making sure that we can keep their meet their sustainability mandates and help them advance the industry. And here, this is right in the middle of Times Square, where this was able to be put right next to the production. And that's a big thing in film, is really around the noise of the generator. Traditionally, you see the generator cabled all the way down and across the street. And that requires a security guard to watch it, make sure it's not stolen. There's less cabling and less setup time. So we're able to actually save the production time and money. And these are some of the first ways that we actually were able to prove that we were able to save productions time and money right off the bat. That was because obviously everybody wanted to be clean and green and sustainable, but it had to have a real, a real time savings and money savings for the production. That was a critical part of the early days. And here we powered a techno crane right in the middle of Times Square for this production, and a savings of $2,000 per week. Lots of applications like this that we've proven around the world, and ushered in this really exciting phase of the film industry. Another famous example here is in No Time to Die. We had 10 Voltstack units with a partner, Green Voltage, out of the UK, traveling around the world on the James Bond production, and it actually had such an impact that it changed the way that they shot the production and where they were able to shoot it, how they're able to shoot it, and it really made a big impact. And we don't have the photo here, but it had such an impact that we actually had a cameo in the movie. So we are in the James Bond movie in a tiny little cameo for a split second in a garage. But really, it just had, this is where we really saw the power of both the innovators as the users of the gear, and how the product is being used. And that's a really important point to understand. Us as manufacturers, we are still users of our equipment. And that's helped us to really innovate in the product. However, the real innovators are our customers, who are coming up with solutions and places where they can use this equipment and how they can use it and the challenges they can address. And that's in every industry that we see this equipment being used. And as uptake starts to take hold in, like, for example, construction, well, there are use cases that we didn't even imagine that are being used. And that's really when we know we're at a tipping point here in this industry, is when the users of traditional diesel generators or gas generators are now innovating in their own right. Speaking of construction, you can see here that construction was a bit slower to the game because there's so much capital cost in the equipment and the life cycle of the equipment. But this is actually a chart done by Volvo, where you can see in the rings here, there's already this movement in the 48 volt. So this is low voltage. It's becoming battery electric. There's going to be a battery electric in the 600 volt in the lighter gray band. And then you're going to see a move to hybrid and alternate fuels. That's obvious. And then you're going to have a lot of fuel cells and other types of bigger equipment on this. But there's a lot of innovation, a lot of movement happening in construction as a lot of this smaller equipment, like small excavators, scissor lifts, access equipment, become electrified. And one of the biggest challenges with electrification in general, whether it's on-road, automotive, or off-road equipment, is charging. And you can have 100 fleet vehicles that are electric show up at your door, but if you haven't thought through on the charging infrastructure and how you're going to actually manage that, then you're probably stuck charging your equipment with a diesel generator, which is not ideal. So we've been innovating as well on the low voltage fast charging, and we call that e-charging. And that's really to be able to do a DC to DC fast charge. Unlike automotive, which is a 400 volt DC or higher fast charge, this equipment in that lower area, the darker gray, that's all 48 volt. And so that requires a new protocol and a new way of charging that as quickly as possible, say over the course of lunch break or coffee break. So this is a really, really exciting field, and we're seeing a tremendous amount of traction in this area of construction. I'm very bullish on construction, and we're going to start to see more and more fully electrified construction sites. And there will be hybrid as well. We're not going to go away from diesel anytime soon. So it's important that we can, maximize the amount of energy that we can get with the limited amount of fuel. And rounding out the presentation here, I did throw in a couple slides because I really do want to emphasize the power of solar. And although a lot of the images you saw there did not show solar, our equipment from day one has been fully solar capable, where we can go off grid and charge our equipment 100% from solar and power indefinitely. And that's been really, really important for us. And I would trust my life on this equipment and the solar capabilities as well. This is at Burning Man. So this is fully off grid for 10 days. The unit is covered up, obviously, due to just sun and dust and just covering up the logos. And you can see here, we've also been innovating on the solar cabling. We've got a touch safe technology here in that little green box. Essentially, it's a solar aggregator where we can put up to 2.4 kilowatts of solar per 5K. And that means it can charge a 5K in about 2.5 hours. So this is something that is exciting. And the more and more people get comfortable with solar, the more and more we're going to start to see it around, especially in a portable and mobile fashion. And here is this activation lit up at night. So it charges up during the day and it powers this at night. And I included this because all of our units are fully data and telematics set up. And so it depends on the user, but right now we are collecting a tremendous amount of data from all of our gear. And this is an example of this particular use case here. So you can see really beautiful sinusoidal state of charge. So we knew exactly how much power we needed over the course of the night. And then we could charge it up during the day. The solar is the orange, you can see there. And so, yeah, it just helps us understand and really understand the data when we can visualize it like this. But we also have a full database that populates a front-end web app or a front-end web user and a back-end fleet manager, which we can tie into our customers' sort of fleet managers, or they can use our own. And then we can pull data from this to present in reports to show carbon offset, usage, location, and a number of 60 other different parameters that we can do. So it's an exciting place. It's still early days, but there's a lot of use cases. And right now it's really about finding those use cases, finding the champions and the users who want to go in there, and then just doubling down on those use cases and making sure that's a win. What we don't want to see or what we really work hard to make sure is that people don't just think, oh, well, I've got unlimited power here, and they go off and it runs out in 2 hours, and it basically creates a negative experience. So we're very cautious and clear to make sure that we've understood the use cases of our customers and how they're going to use it. And one of the questions that we always ask is, what do you want to power and for how long? And that way we're able to help them determine how many units they would need or how long the runtime would be of their equipment to make sure that it's a win. And if it's not, then we're very upfront in saying, hey, well, this is probably not the best use case for this equipment at this time. So yeah, I think that's it on my presentation, and I'm open to questions.
Great, thank you so much, Mark. So yeah, we have a few questions. We have a few questions coming in. Yeah, you can stop sharing if you'd like. First question is, can you summarize again what the obstacles are to adaptation in the construction industry? Adoption.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I would say price sensitivity has been a thing versus other, for example, in film. The construction industry doesn't really care what the unit looks like, for example, or really necessarily fuel savings isn't really that big of an issue, but it really was around just pure rental cost and cost of the equipment. So it's taken a little bit longer to do that, especially with the capital investments that the construction and construction equipment rental industry has made, that they had to be really, really certain that there was a real value to their users and that they were able to meet on parity with the price of existing equipment. But now what we start to see is that once people realize that a battery powered system or an e-generator is much more than a generator, that's when the value starts to be realized, especially with real-time data and telematics, and also being able to charge electrified equipment around an electric construction site. So, but look, it's like any human behavior. The first reaction when people see something that's different, that changes their workflow a little bit, the first reaction is one to sort of say, well, it's not going to work for me. And then we say, okay, well, let's talk about where we can start to get some easy wins and where it can work, and start to do demonstration and pilot projects and start to show them the data. And once people realize, and we've seen this happen time and time again, once people realize that it can fulfill the duty cycle of the day, whatever they need to do, get the job done, then there's an immediate uptake, and then they start to really trust the equipment. So really it's about building trust, finding easy wins, making sure that we can meet the industry on pricing. And then from there, we can start to find bigger and bigger applications as people get more and more comfortable with the equipment.
Okay. Next question. What are safety considerations when adopting your products?
Oh, a lot of safety stuff. Well, first, when we started, safety was the most important part of it, because I mean, that's all we have, especially when we're starting a new industry. And so we've got 100% safety record on our end. We've always used both certified components within and then certified our system. In the early days, it was definitely the Wild West. And so that was something that we really did take to heart. And our early systems, we made sure that we got UL and CSA certification in them, and that our battery packs are certified, our power electronics are certified. And so that was a really big, we were the first in the market with a UL and CSA certified unit. So really important. But there's not just North America, of course, you've got CE certification in Europe. So certification does become definitely an onerous part of the process, but an important part of the process as well. Our 5Ks also, we got certified to ship by air, so we can ship those. We got certified by the FAA, and so that's been a big during COVID, and where there was the shipping backlogs when we had business in Europe. Actually, shipping by air, we really were able to get ahead of that shipping backlog. But yeah, safety is critical, but so is uptime and reliability. So those are the two things that we really look out at: safety and then uptime, and they're both interlinked for sure. But yeah, it's and also as the standards become more and more understood, they're changing and evolving every day. We're seeing new standards come in with EV charging and electric equipment. So at some point there will be a standardization of the standards. For right now, it's still there's still a lot of gray zone in there, but it's happening right now.
Okay, great. You have some interesting applications. You have some interesting applications. What would you say has been the most challenging one you have encountered?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I mean, it's the most challenging applications always come down to, well, there's two ways I look at that question. One is, if the user or customers have not internalized or understood the difference between a battery electric system and a generator, and are going in with the same mentality, then it might fail. It might not fulfill what the user was expecting. And so that in the early days those were the hardest and challenging experiences. I remember one of our first productions, we'd shipped equipment out to Toronto, and I remember the user, we were like, okay, who's using the unit? And they're like, oh, it doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go have a look at it. And they're like, well, it's over there in the corner. It just doesn't work anymore. And then we were like, well, did you plug it in? And they had not plugged it in. They had not even realized that you needed to plug it in to recharge it. And you could do that pretty easily. So, those are early days, but those are it's around dealing with humans is actually the hardest part of introducing new technologies, especially if there's a resistance to change, which, there is a generational, depending on the industry, a difference in generations. There's a younger generation that's keen to make an impact and understand the new technology. And there's an older generation that it's not everybody in the older generation, but who might not be willing to change their workflow. But in terms of like harsh environments, I mean, we've had this equipment in the Arctic with the James Bond production. Those photos I showed of Burning Man, it was 40 degrees Celsius for 10 days during the daytime. Really harsh, dusty environments that are really hard on electronics and obviously on solar. You got to brush them off. And we've had this equipment in so many different areas, hanging from helicopters, in everywhere from Newfoundland to all over Europe and Malta. We've got equipment in Mexico, Singapore, Japan. So this gear goes a long way. We've even had gear fall out of a truck going 60 kilometers or 100 kilometers an hour on a highway, and it still worked. And that wasn't our truck, by the way. That was somebody else's fault.
Okay, great. Is your business model lease, rent, or sales to end users?
Oh, great question. So when we first started the business, we only did rentals because we didn't want to sell the prototypes, and we had to get feedback from our customers. We had to get market intel. We had to get data points and understand the technology. And then in 2018, we started to sell our equipment to the equipment rental industry. That was our B2B market. And we continued to sell our equipment. Now we have moved into two streams. One is we do direct sales, and the other one we do essentially a power as a service, which it could also be a long-term lease. For example, I'm working with a film studio for a 24-month lease program that we're then able to retrieve the equipment and refurbish or reallocate that after the 24-month period. So we are open to a variety of different models, but right now it's predominantly direct sales and then power as a service.
Apart from the film industry, what industries do you see adopting your products in the short term?
Well, construction is our probably the biggest market as we start to see the electrified equipment coming on, like scissor lifts, access equipment, excavators, and the like, and around that 48 volt. So we are moving full steam into construction because that's one of the biggest markets of temporary power. Disaster relief, that's always been a really interesting market for us. It's a no-brainer in many ways. However, it's been one of the hardest markets to get into with the sales cycle. Companies will die on the vine if they focus on just disaster and emergency response. So it's something that we keep chipping away at, but it's not been the core driver of our business. And I'm actually going next week to Northern California to do a emergency response demonstration there. So we continue to chip away at that market. Other markets that are super interesting, when COVID was in full swing, that's when we pivoted to utility and backup power, but also to providing backup power for vaccine fridges and power to off-grid triage areas. So those were interesting markets that obviously are no longer valid today specifically. There are other markets. I'm looking out at everything from sports. We do live events as well. But really it's going to come down to the e-charging market and the film market right now, where we're seeing the biggest uptake.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mark. That's the end of all the questions.
Great.
Okay. If anyone else in the audience wants to contact you, how should they get a hold of you?
They can email me. I think I had the email on the back of mine, but it's is there a chat somewhere I can?
You know what? I just dropped the final slide, which has your email in there,
Okay,
Mark at portableelectric.com.
Yep. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to search. You can find other other interviews and other things that I've written online or both podcasts and written, and always happy to chat energy and technology and the future of electrification. It's I just one quick note. I was at the ACT conference, the Advanced Clean Transportation Conference, last week in Anaheim, California, and it was incredible to see it's happening. All the truck and bus manufacturers and everybody's in on it, and it's going to take time, but we're starting to see that, and we're starting to see the charging industry starting to come in line, and then the utility starting to come in line, and then the software industry. So it's really interesting. It's not just, you can't just build an electric bus and then hope that it's all going to work out. You have to have everybody in on it, right? From utilities to chargers to the software providers to the users of the equipment. Everybody's got to know the game and how it's being done. No one's just operating in isolation anymore. Everybody's got to work together to figure this out. And the other thing that's super exciting is also the V2G, right? Vehicle to grid, as we start to see more grid support coming in. And our equipment as well will be playing a role in grid support and bidirectional support to the grid as well. So there's a lot of exciting movement in this space. And I want to say it's still early days, and there's going to be winners and losers in this space, but it's just pretty damn exciting. So I really, I appreciate you guys for putting this on.
Of course. Thank you so much, Mark. Great. To the audience, thank you for attending this session. Next, you can go into the lobby and join the next session. I'm going to be ending the broadcast now. Thank you so much for attending. And thank you again, Mark.
Thank you, everybody.